So bulk fermentation means like, so I'm making 3 loaves of bread. In a big bakery, you'd be making like 20 or 40 or 50. And you can't you wouldn't separate them all out at the beginning like this. You leave the dough in one big bulk and let it ferment in bulk. So that's why it's called bulk fermentation. This period lasts anywhere from like 3 to 6 hours, depending on a number of factors. This is probably like the hardest thing to understand and master in the beginning, is just managing the fermentation of your dough. If the dough is wetter, it will ferment faster. If it is warmer, it will ferment faster. If you put more sourdough starter in it, it will ferment faster. If the sourdough starter was more fermented when you put it in the dough, then the dough's already at a more advanced stage of fermentation. So it's just kind of complicated, and well, it's not that complicated. It just takes time to understand how things work and understand how to manipulate various variables to achieve your desired results. If you over-ferment a dough, the acidity from the fermentation is going to start to break down the gluten. And then all your beautiful gluten that you work so hard to make is going to fail, and your bread will not have a beautiful, nice open crumb. It might even not rise, depending on how bad you let it get. It'll probably still be delicious, because then it'll just be like more sour and yummy. But it just won't look how you want. If you under ferment the dough, then you're probably not going to get the nice open crumb either, because there's not enough gas built up from the fermentation inside the dough. Think of the dough as a big net full of balloons. And the balloons are all connected by rubber bands. So you want to inflate all of the balloons fully so that the net gets filled up. Anyway, I didn't make up this analogy. This bread genius guy did. And if the rubber bands aren't working, they have to be stretchy. And anyway, I'm really bad at explaining it. I'll work on it. Anyway, the fermentation is very important. If the balloons are not filled up, the net full of balloons is just gonna lay on the floor and be floppy. And so will your bread if you don't fill up the little balloons, which are all the little air pockets in there that are being held by gluten. So now that my dough's all mixed and I'm starting bulk fermentation, I need a container to let the dough ferment in. Ideally, if you had a square, clear container that's kind of deep, that would be cool, because it's nice to be able to look on the underside and see the air bubbles and how they're developing. I don't have a container like that, so I'm just using my bowl. However, I did take the dough out and make sure that the sides of my bowl didn't have dough residue on them. You want the bowl to be really clean and nice. I would recommend doing a thin swipe of oil around it, just to help the dough, stick to itself and not anything.